At 80 years old, Cherie decided to live alone, a choice many find challenging for her age. While society often views old age as a time of dependency, she chose a different path, maintaining her autonomy. It wasn't just about avoiding being a burden to her children, but rather a deep conviction that true control over her life was the key to happiness. For Cherie, the decision to live alone was a way to preserve her dignity, keep her own pace, and enjoy her remaining years without interference from others. However, this choice was not easy. Facing the challenge of autonomy required both physical and emotional strength. Knowing that maintaining her home, her health, and her daily routine would depend entirely on her, Cherie prepared to live independently. This decision, for her, was not just a matter of necessity, but a statement that age is not a barrier for those who seek to live fully. By making this decision, Cherie defied societal norms that associate old age with fragility and dependence. Instead of surrendering to the expectations of moving in with her children or living in a retirement home, she embraced her freedom enthusiastically. For many, living alone may seem lonely, but for Cherie, it was the opposite. Solitude became an opportunity to reconnect with herself and her passions. She found joy in the little things, reading, gardening, and enjoying the peace of her home. Each day was lived according to her own rules, without the pressure to please or adapt to someone else's routine. This freedom was her greatest gift. Living alone allowed her to maintain a quality of life where time was her ally, and every choice was an expression of her independence. By defying societal norms, Cherie proved that old age doesn't have to mean limitation, but instead can be a time of rediscovery and empowerment. The choice to live alone was deeply influenced by the practice of Buddhist wisdom, something Cherie had incorporated into her life. For her, Buddhist philosophy taught the importance of detachment and self-sufficiency. Understanding that happiness comes from within and that external circumstances are temporary gave Cherie the strength to maintain her independence. Instead of seeing aging as a loss of abilities, she saw this period as an opportunity for spiritual and personal growth. Buddhism helped her accept the impermanence of life, allowing her to adapt to changes with serenity. Letting go of social conventions and trusting in her own ability to care for herself made her even more determined to live alone. Meditation and self-discipline were part of her daily routine, helping her cultivate inner peace and mental clarity. Cherie viewed her life as a reflection of her spiritual state, and this gave her the strength to continue on the path of independence. Cherie always believed that maintaining dignity in old age was essential to living well. Managing her own life meant more than just performing daily tasks. It was a way to preserve her self-esteem and avoid feeling like a burden to others. She preferred to face life's difficulties alone, rather than lose control over her own destiny. Taking care of her home, managing her finances, and maintaining her health were ways of demonstrating that, even in old age, she was still capable. For Cherie, this was the true essence of aging with dignity. She felt that by depending on her children or others for her daily needs, she would lose part of her identity and freedom. Managing her life, therefore, was a matter of pride and preserving autonomy. This view led Cherie to prepare for years, adapting her home and routine to ensure she could live alone comfortably and safely. Over the years, Cherie received many invitations from her children to live with them, especially after her husband passed away. However, she always refused. For her, accepting this offer would mean giving up the freedom she valued so much. Solitude, often seen as something negative, was in fact a conscious choice for Cherie. She saw solitude as a way to reconnect with her own desires and needs. Her home was a refuge of peace, where she could follow her own rhythm without having to adapt to others' routines. Refusing her children's help didn't mean rejecting them, but rather a way to protect them from the responsibility of caring for her. For Cherie, living alone was synonymous with freedom, and solitude was a companion she chose to continue her journey with independence. Cherie knew that keeping some distance from her children was essential to preserving family harmony. She believed that if she lived with them, conflicts of routine and habits would inevitably arise. For her, this distance was like a perfect temperature in relationships. Too close, and tensions would rise. Too far, and the bond would weaken. By choosing to live alone, Cherie preserved family harmony, maintaining a healthy relationship with her children. They visited her regularly, and the absence of pressure to care for her made those moments lighter and more enjoyable. For Cherie, living apart from her children was the key to maintaining a relationship based on respect and affection, without impositions or resentments. Cherie attributes her longevity and well-being to her active daily routine. Over the years, she learned that the key to aging healthily was never to remain still. Inspired by longevity communities she visited, Cherie incorporated healthy habits into her life. Daily walks, gardening, and small household tasks were ways of keeping her body moving. For her, staying active was a way to ensure her independence. Additionally, Cherie adopted a balanced diet and placed great importance on quality sleep. She knew that taking care of her body was essential to keeping her mind sharp and spirit strong. This balance between body and mind was the secret Cherie held to living fully in old age. Cherie always said her biggest fear wasn't aging, but becoming a burden to her children. From an early age, she prepared herself to ensure that her old age would be lived with independence and dignity. For her, aging gracefully meant not interfering in her children's lives, allowing them to follow their own paths without the obligation of caring for her. This choice reflected the wisdom she had gained over the years. She believed that by preserving her autonomy, she gave her children the greatest gift: the freedom to live their own lives without excessive concerns for her. Cherie thus found peace and dignity by ensuring that her old age wasn't a burden, but an example of independence and strength. At 80 years old, Cherie continued to live with a clear purpose: to maintain her self-sufficiency and enjoy each day as a blessing. For her, life wasn't just about surviving, but about finding meaning in every small task. Taking care of herself and her home gave her a sense of accomplishment. Self-sufficiency was her way of keeping her self-esteem and motivation, even in old age. Her purpose in life now was to ensure that her days were filled with activities that brought her pleasure and kept her mind and body active. Cherie knew that as long as she could care for herself, she would continue to live a full and meaningful life. Cherie's journey is proof that old age can be transformed into a time of happiness and personal fulfillment. Self-care was the foundation for her independence, and that independence brought her lasting happiness. For her, aging wasn't a time of decline but a moment to cultivate habits that ensured her physical, mental, and spiritual well-being. Cherie understood that by taking care of herself, she could continue to live with joy and purpose, without depending on anyone. Her story is an example of how old age can be an opportunity to rediscover the power of autonomy and enjoy life with gratitude and inner peace.